Hello and welcome to the Example podcast, where we bring you conversations with mature, modern, masculine men in an attempt to share their knowledge, wisdom and experience for you to learn from. Come as you are, take what you need, and remember, you are the captain of your ship. This week, I sat down with Ross Moffat, the first guy that we're interviewing that's been through the Example program. Ross is currently a licensed mental health therapist. He's been a professional soccer player back in his home country of Scotland, and he's even coached the USA Paralympic soccer team to bronze medal in Chile a couple years ago. We spoke about the ideas and premise behind Ross's first book, which is going to be called Adaptable, helping men raise their awareness around when they're running on outdated behaviour patterns that may have helped them as a child, but could be the wrong tools stepping into adulthood. With vulnerable real-life examples around divorce and being a single dad, we covered how when something doesn't go to plan, men often might avoid what's actually going on or even make things worse before we can course correct. And finally, we also covered how the Example program helped Ross in his life. Ross is a phenomenal husband, dad of 4, and honestly an unbelievable friend. I really think there's so much value to take away from this, guys, especially if you're thinking about maybe stepping into therapy. He would be my number one option for any man to speak to. Enjoy this one.
That's it, mate. We're in. Right, mate, we'll kick it off. What does it mean to you to be a great man?
Well, this is actually a question I've thought about a fair bit, just sitting in here in this therapy office. It's actually a question that's posed to me sometimes, even by clients. And so I think I might have found a way of breaking it down into what I call the 3 A's.
Okay.
So, first of all, awareness. Something that you and I have even been talking about before we hit record is just that deep understanding of yourself, knowing the circuitry that plays out, knowing what drives your behaviours, knowing what kind of behavioural patterns and triggers you have and things like that. And so I think if you start with awareness and actually pausing and understanding that and owning that, which is the second A, the accountability. Mm-hmm. So not projecting blame, not just saying, well, it's just the way I am. Sometimes I'm just angry or whatever the case may be. So I think self-awareness, accountability, owning that. And then for me, what that does is those two play directly into what I call adaptability, which is not necessarily just adapting to whatever the circumstances are in the moment, but actually choosing how to show up in the moment, mm-hmm. which for me, a great man is able to show up in a moment in the way that that moment demands. So the way that I show up maybe for my 3-year-old son Lachlan is going to be different than how I show up in this therapy space. It's going to maybe even be different how I show up for different clients in this therapy space. And then when I go coach soccer tonight, then I'm going to have to show up in a different way there. And I think a great man is able to understand himself at a deep level and own that, and then be able to have enough pause to be able to choose and show up in a way that the moment demands in that moment, rather than just be driven by old circuitry, old patterns, mm-hmm. Old experiences, things that trigger you. I think that's, for me, adaptability is probably a short way of saying everything I just said. But yeah, I think that's it for me.
And then that adaptability is the end goal and the outcome of the first two.
Exactly. And
then let me just, because your awareness piece, I love that.
Yeah.
But I think break that down a little bit mm-hmm. for people that, because you said circuitry and behavioural patterns.
Yeah.
I think people might not
absolutely
grasp that right way. If you can give us something we can point a finger at.
Yeah, no, thank you. Like. Thank you for slowing me down a little bit. Obviously, I talk in this language all the time, so I do want to make sure that this lands for anybody. Yeah. So self-awareness for me is far beyond just noticing when you're happy, sad, angry. Mm-hmm. For me, so what I've recognised in the work that I do here as a therapist is, I call it the adaptation triangle. As you can tell, I like to come up with little things that make things, so the 3 A's, adaptation triangle. But what I've recognised is that when men show up in this space here, we're often driven by a culmination of things that I can kind of put on 3 points of a triangle, which would be, what did we learn kept us safe? So we start to adopt behaviors that keep us safe, especially as kids. And that's going to show up very differently if you're in a volatile household, or maybe you have unpredictable caregivers, or whatever the case may be. So it's different for everyone. But what did we learn kept us safe? What did we learn helped us make and keep friends, right? What helped you fit in? What helped you be accepted by the social group? And then finally, what did we learn brings us reward or praise, for example? So for me, that's where real awareness comes in. It's not just noticing how you feel in a moment, but it's recognizing what are all the experiences and relationships and adversity and everything that's gone into driving my behavior, and then not allowing those parts just to take the wheel. So what you learned that kept you safe or helped you keep friends or brought you reward and praise, as you grow up, you're a kid, right? So you're not thinking about it. You're just adopting whatever works.
Yeah.
And so what happens is eventually men get here, and all they're doing is they're playing that old, it's like an iPhone that you haven't updated yet, so they're just operating off of the old software.
You got the Nokia 3310
exactly.
with an iPhone case,
and then they're trying to be a dad, or they're trying to figure out, why is my relationships not working, or why am I drawn to partners that aren't compatible with me, or whatever the case may be, or why can't I keep a job, or why am I always angry? And so that's where that awareness comes in. It's being able to be vulnerable enough to turn towards yourself and be like, okay, what are these tools that I'm applying that are not working anymore? So for me, often men will come in, and I've been through this process myself. It's not like I'm some all-knowing guru. I only just figured this out a few years ago too. All the things that were driving me. But sometimes men will come in, they'll say, I think I'm just broken, or I'm just angry, or I'm just an asshole. And it's like, well, no, maybe you're just operating from old programming that once served you but is no longer useful. So that's quite a long-winded way of me saying it. But when I say awareness, it's much deeper than just maybe noticing how you're showing up in a moment.
And I think these guys that are coming, obviously there's all types of different men that you speak to, but this can still be something that people need to work on despite external metrics, right? Like guys that are coming here, they might have what others would perceive like, oh, he's got the wife, he's got the kids, he's got the house and the 2.5 kids or whatever. And it's like, but he's still in here, and he's still got to work out what's making him tick as well.
Oh, without a doubt. And in a lot of ways, those are actually my favorite clients to work with. A lot of times, people like that from the outside looking in are functioning really well. You know, my mind immediately goes to some of the CEOs or the attorneys that I have outside looking in, like, wow, guy's got it going on. And sometimes people will even come in and say, but my childhood was perfect. You know, it was idyllic. Or I've never had anxiety. And once you start to sort of peel back the layers of the onion, it's like, yeah, there wasn't any capital T traumatic events. You know, there wasn't, you know, some catastrophic thing that happened to you. But what it is, it's more, I call it the little T trauma, right? It's all your experiences, it's all of how you related to your caregivers. Your mom and dad might have been there and great, but it might have felt very conditional. Like, you only felt acceptable if you got straight A's, or you know, whatever the case may be. And so, yeah, for a lot of men, that's why it's difficult, because they don't want to get vulnerable and turn towards their past, because it feels like an excuse. But it's not an excuse. It's an exploration. It's just getting curious. Okay, what are these things that are driving me? What is it that makes me react angrily in a moment, or what is it that makes me want to work so hard that I sacrifice showing up for my kids? Or, you know, there's just so many pieces to it. So yeah, I think it's getting curious about all of those things and honoring those things for me. So it's not like looking at sort of behavior patterns and then chastising yourself for it, or feeling shame for it. It's more just, it's curious and neutral. It's like, that's that thing I do. And now I see how that used to be really useful as a kid or as a teenager. and then recognizing, okay, so that's the tool I'm using that's not the right tool for the job. Sometimes I use the analogy of the tool's a chainsaw, and you're trying to use the chainsaw to put up a picture, for example. Yeah. And it's like, you're confused. Why is this tool not working? It's like, well, if you pause for a second, put the chainsaw down, and what other tools do we have for this moment?
Yeah.
It's just like we default to the things that worked. And that's why we need to honor them, because at some point, being angry or shutting down or people pleasing or whatever the maladaptive behavior or whatever the behavior is that's playing out in a maladaptive way in the moment, it did work at some point.
Yeah.
So we need to honor it. If it didn't work, it wouldn't have stuck around. Yeah. That's why it's part of our circuitry. So it can be this very sort of neutral, curious exploration rather than I'm broken and I need to fix it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I like that. With that in mind, mate.
Yeah.
Where did you grow up? How did you grow up? What was it like? Early
Oh,
life?
now I've really set myself up
Yeah,
for
here you go, mate.
vulnerability, haven't I? I should have thought that through.
Unzip your backpack.
So I grew up in Clydebank, Glasgow, in Scotland, and it's a shipbuilding town. So
Ship.
Yeah. Some people might say it's full of shipbuildings too, but a shipbuilding town. So everybody's grandparents, essentially, or everybody's grandpa, everybody my age grandpa worked in the shipyards. Mm-hmm. So even although the shipyards have sort of all closed down and stuff, there is still that sort of shipbuilding toughness, grit, edge, humour as well. So when I was back in Scotland last summer, we were going somewhere and I had the 4 kids in the back and the whole deal. And I was like, oh, we're going to drive past where I grew up. Let's swing by. Just thinking it would be cool to see it, and then we pulled up, and I just started crying. Yeah, out of nowhere. And so my wife and kids were not judging at all, but it was I had not prepared for it to be emotional. So then I was like, man, why was I so emotional? And I think it was just this sort of realization of, it's just a little duplex. Well, in America, we would call it a duplex, but it was just very humble and it just seemed so small. Once you live in America for 20 odd years, everything's so big, especially in Iowa where there's lots of space. So everything just seemed so small and humble. And I just had this emotional reaction because we didn't have a whole lot compared to maybe how I live now, but it was great. And I remember feeling safe. And I just remember being outside playing all the time. And it was an interesting moment. So I mean, I grew up with my mum and dad and my sister. My parents were great, and I remember, and I played football all the time, or soccer all the time. And now that I'm 44 and I can reflect and I think about the adaptation triangle, I didn't realize, but for me, I thought I was playing football because I loved it, which it was. But if I look at it in terms of how did it serve me, then it starts to make a lot of sense. It kept me safe, for example, right? I remember, if you're good at football, your status is sort of immediately elevated for some reason in that culture. I even remember starting high school and there was a lot of bullying going on with just the, what we would call freshmen here. But I was never part of that because I was Roscoe that was good at football, and I made the high school team as a first year. And I remember the lad saying, "Leave him alone. He's sound. That's Roscoe, whatever." And so it kept you safe in that environment. And then there's also just keep friends, right? Again, just social status, just totally elevated, and then praise and reward. As a currency in that culture, if you're good at football, you get the praise. And so I really, really immersed myself in the game because I loved it, but also probably because of those factors. And so, I remember playing soccer from throwing my bag in the house and then playing until the street lights came on, sort of thing, every day. So I love that. Yeah, no, childhood was. I've got a lot of fond memories of childhood, and I'm now that I can. You don't really, like I said before, as a kid, you don't choose or reflect. You just do whatever you have to do. But it was a very working class environment. But so there was toughness, and you had to be vigilant. But it was also very neighbourly. People looked after each other. I wouldn't change it, you know. And so maybe what tools did I develop at that time just to practice what I preach? I think I learned that in that world, you don't really want to show weakness. And so I remember, even on the soccer pitch, I remember getting fouled. And I was quite good at the time, so I was getting quite targeted and stuff, and I remember always bouncing up on my feet, getting right back in people's faces, or I even remember walking down the street and stuff. You know, if somebody notices you support the wrong team, you know, or you're walking through the wrong area or something. But I always remember, don't act scared, even when you were scared inside. So I developed this sort of toughness thing, and then also just. I developed a desire to be impressive, which can definitely play out in maladaptive ways later in life, right? I always wanted to be the fastest runner in the class and get straight A's and the star of the football team. And it was like everything I did, I felt like I had to be the best. And that worked. That was one of those things that works until it doesn't, right? And then it can unravel pretty quickly. So practicing what I preach, that would probably be the things that I learned that maybe became a little bit maladaptive later in life. It's okay to not just be tough all the time.
Yeah.
You know, it's okay to say you're scared or you're struggling or you're sad. And it's also okay to not be the best at something just to do the thing. It's probably why I've never really played golf. I want to be good at it, but I've never put in the time to be good at it, and so just being average is hard for me.
Yeah.
So it's something I'm really trying to work on. Yeah,
that's a good example that I think people will be able to relate to. Who are your role models growing up, mate? Who are your male role models growing up?
Yeah, that's a great question. And quite honestly, for me, the definitive resounding answer is my dad. I'm very, very lucky to have had a dad who showed up for me, was present. I don't take it for granted at all. And just in terms of a role model, what did he model? And you've met my dad, so you can attest to this. He has an incredible way of connecting with people. He reads a room really well. He notices the dynamics of a room. And he has, that, and maybe this is why I believe him to be a great man is, talk about being the man the moment demands. He's the best at that. However somebody's feeling or however they're doing, he has this way of connecting into that, meeting you where you're at, and making you feel like you're the most important thing in his world in that moment. And he does it for everyone, and I see him just do it over and over again. And I hope that in some way that rubbed off on me. Maybe not a coincidence that I'm a therapist, right? Those skills were modeled to me from the get-go. So just that sort of awareness, communication, connection, making people feel good. That was, for me, he seemed to always know the right thing to say in the moment, even when I was, can I swear? Even when I was fucking up and stuff, or having bad moments as a kid, I never felt judged or shamed. He just had a good way of connecting into that and holding me accountable for sure. Yeah, absolutely. There was because that's maybe sometimes I needed firmness, So for him, for me, he is the clear male role model answer.
Yeah, I can definitely attest to that, man. I seen him just for 30 seconds the other day, and I walked away like feeling 6'2". I'm like, oh God.
Yeah, it's like
one hug, and that was it.
It's like a superpower.
Yeah,
I do have another male role model though. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, and it's actually somebody that's younger than me. My my best friend growing up got, his name's Gordon Brown, Brun, in Scottish, so Brun. But I think for me, he was a really important character in my life because I am very analytical, very vigilant. I'll think about things before I move. I'll sort of evaluate situations, which of course can be a useful thing, but sometimes you just need to take a leap,
Right.
and
Sometimes it can paralyze you.
it can, paralysis by analysis. And he was the polar opposite of me. I mean, he would run straight forward blindly and just be like, we'll figure it out, let's go, we'll figure it out. And so that was really good for me because I needed somebody to push me into discomfort sometimes, or just sort of blaze a trail. And it helped me realize that things don't always need to be perfect before you move forward.
Yeah.
You need to sometimes trust yourself that you can navigate the new circumstances as you arrive in them. And he was a great influence on me. Hopefully I maybe slowed him down a little bit because I mean, he was just sort of jumping everything with zero thought, where I was too much thought. And I think between the two of us, hopefully we influenced each other a little bit, where we got a sort of a good happy medium. So that'd be the two guys that pop into my head immediately for different reasons.
That's really cool that you've chosen someone that was like your peer, or like he's a little bit younger than you. We haven't had that before. Most people, obviously, a lot of people say their dad right away,
right?
And for me, it's coaches and teachers,
right?
But maybe if I think about that a little bit more, probably a little bit my friend group as well, and I can pick a few names out like that.
Absolutely.
We're in America, obviously. You said you're born in Clydebank and you moved to America, and I believe that was after your professional football career had come to an end.
Yeah.
So your identity, everything that had kept you safe, brought you friends, got you reward, is now over at the level that you'd want it to be, right?
Yeah.
So imagine that felt like what the whole world's folding in, and then you end up coming to America. Can you just talk us through that transition, and then what did that do for your character, like at so young, leaving everything you've known and what was going to be the dream future,
right,
to then restart in Des Moines, Iowa at Grandview College at the time, right? It was
college,
yet.
2002. I went straight from high school into professional soccer, so this sort of soccer player identity was thriving. It was I was kind of all in on that. And then what happened was I got to my third year professional and I wasn't playing well. I lost confidence. I kept getting injured, which not an excuse because I'm not even sure if I was fully fit I would have been but it doesn't help, right? I couldn't get a run of games, couldn't stay fit. And so eventually what happened, they said, well, my contract was up anyway, but they said, we're not going to offer you a new one. And so at the time, I did go down a division, and I did get offered a trial with a contract with Stenhouse Muir in Division 2, but it's this idea of professional soccer being sort of glamorous and all, it is if you're Erling Haaland or you're in the Premier League, but it's also at the lower levels, it's a grind.
It's hard.
It's unpredictable. It's a grind, and it's very cutthroat. It's not like, let's put your arm around this young up-and-comer. All I was to those guys was a threat. And so between the injuries and the confidence and starting to look at it and go, am I ever going to make enough money to move out of my mum's house? sort of thing. Right. I was like, I need to do something different. And so I would love to say it was just sort of this planned thing, leap into discomfort. It really wasn't. I was lost. I had this identity as a soccer player. I had used it as a vehicle for total platform for everything I was doing in my life, and all of a sudden it was kind of gone. Yeah. And I didn't handle it that well. I was going out all the time. I was going out on a Thursday night, a Friday night, a Saturday night. It's not like I wasn't really thinking clearly. And the moving out to the US thing came up, and it was sort of a last resort. It wasn't like this premeditated plan or anything like that. It was kind of like, well, don't know what else I'm going to
else
do. I
can
might
you
as
do,
well
yeah.
go. That's kind of what it was like. And then so I left Kilmarnock in May, and I was in Des Moines, Iowa in August. You know, it happened really, really fast. And the reason I came here, one, Blair on the phone made me feel like, you know what, I could probably do this.
Yeah.
And two, he actually had some money freed up because somebody had sort of bailed on him. That was literally the reasons. I didn't even know anything about collegiate soccer or Iowa or Midwest or anything. And so, yeah, it was kind of a full transparency. It was kind of a last resort. Don't really want to keep trying to make this work in Scotland. I'd always been academic at school. I'd always done well, so I thought with college stuff I can handle that. And so it was maybe that's where having a friend like Gordon growing up was useful, because I was able to say, fuck it, I'll just go.
Yeah.
I'll just go. I didn't know what I was walking into. And the first couple of days were hard. I remember crying. I arrived before everybody else. And so I was in that little dorm in Knudsen. It's like a prison cell.
Yeah,
when you know, and I didn't have, all I had was $200 and some clothes. And so there was nothing in the dorm room. It's just I felt like in prison. And there was no one I didn't know anyone. I didn't know anyone in America.
Right.
I remember crying the first night, thinking, "Oh my God, what have I done here?" sort of thing. And then, but then the team shows up, and then there's 20 other guys that are. Almost all of that team was international. There was like 20 international guys. So all of a sudden you're in it with, you know, a bunch of other guys that are like you. And then the football thing was actually great for me at the time. The level was slightly lower, but in a way that I needed. The game was slower. The Scottish Premier League is so fast.
Yeah.
It's 100 miles an hour. And, you know, you get half a second on the ball and then you get put up in the stand, you know, someone just clatters you, and all of a sudden I had time on the ball. I was playing immediately, you know, and they kind of elevated me as okay, this guy's a key player right away, and so I just felt valuable, useful. All of a sudden, the confidence was coming back, and it was great for me. Yeah, it was exactly what I needed at the time, even although I didn't know it, if that makes sense. But to answer your question about what does it do? You know, I think as a young person, moving away from everything you know, doing something different, putting yourself in an uncomfortable environment. I mean, they talk about discomfort as well, growth live, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you just need to figure it out yourself. There's no one, you know, your mum's not doing your laundry or your dad's not solving your problems for you or whatever. And so you're just sort of, it's just such a, it's just ripe for growth, and I think that's really what it done for me. I think I needed that. I think I needed to be uncomfortable and figure some shit out and take a hard look at myself as well, quite honestly. So yeah, it is a big leap. You know, you kind of leap into the unknown, but I would encourage all young people, if you get the opportunity to even just travel, you know, get out of what you know and you know, use that as a way of growing. So
Yeah. I obviously went to the same school. So I know the prison-like feeling, and the first thing, and my roommate wasn't there, and I kept thinking, like, I'm going to wake up back in my bed.
Yeah.
And it didn't sink in that I was in
I know.
America. But yeah, that's interesting. I think what you said there's right, the discomfort, and and it's almost like the thing with college, and it's not for everybody, and obviously if you're not an athlete, but there was like a safety blanket of the team that you didn't know was there.
Right.
So you were taking a jump, but there's 20 guys that are ready to catch you.
Right.
Like if you fall over.
And that's an amazing thing when you're with other people that are cut from the same cloth. There's 20 other guys that also got on a plane and left everything they know. And, you know, people that are able to do that have a certain edge about them. And if they don't, they develop it. If they want to stay here, you know, if you want to stay here, you can't just float along. You've got to make it happen, don't you? And so it just instills this sort of adaptability, maybe, but grind, problem-solving stuff. It just all comes to the surface. It gets exposed. You have to use those tools, and if you don't, you end up on a plane home.
Yeah.
And so it just sharpens all those life skills, which I've been able to build my life on. Since then. Yeah.
And we're going to fast forward a little bit now,
Sure.
because you finished your degree at Granby, and then you got your psychology degree or therapist degree at Drake.
Yep. Mental health counselling, yep.
Yeah, and then you met your first wife, Scarlett.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and then that eventually broke down. Some great times, no doubt, whirlwind. And then you had a kid together. You had Harry together.
Yeah.
And then that's broken down. Sorry.
Yeah.
So now, what was your normal? Has one been drastically shooken up by having your first kid, and now you're single man and you're co-parenting again.
Yeah.
And we were both at the time living back at Rich's in shared accommodation. So you've gone from wife, kid, house, spare room with me and the other one.
Yeah.
And Rich.
I know.
And little Harry.
Wild times.
What was going through your head, like those first nights where you're in that spare room at Rich's and looking at the ceiling? Because I'm sure, life doesn't go like that. No one does.
No.
And people need to understand that they've been in that little moment as well.
Yeah.
Is that your phone?
No. We might have to edit this out.
I'll snip it in, don't I? Yeah, that's all good.
No, so that's a great question.
Yeah.
And I think what I didn't realise at the time was that in my first marriage, I was, again, to practice what I preach, I was running off of old circuitry still. I was still at because what happened was I did the soccer thing. I had the blip when I didn't do the professional, but then I just kept it all going again once I got to Grandview.
Okay, so there was no real need for the deep dive in.
Exactly.
Because, hey, this is just working again over here.
Right. And then what I didn't realise at the time is I went straight from Grandview. I did do my mental health counselling graduate degree, but I didn't become a counsellor. What did I do? I became a soccer coach. And so all of a sudden I was still using soccer as this vehicle to feel safe, to get praise, to get reward. And I was really operating off of a lot of external validation. Mm-hmm. And I was still operating off of that in the first part of my marriage too. But having a kid has this incredible way of exposing cracks, right? And so I think, yes, in hindsight, there was a lot of red flags in that relationship. Mm-hmm. But you kind of, if you're not truly honest with yourself, you can make things work, right? You can paper over the cracks. And I was working a lot too. I was running the Sporting Iowa Soccer Club. So, I mean, you can work from, 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. in that job if you want to.
Yeah.
And so I had the distraction of that, and when Harry came along, it really exposed some of the cracks in that relationship, and parenting styles, values, life vision, all of that stuff of came colliding together. And the relationship deteriorated and eventually got divorced and ended up in Rich's house with you, which, I do look back in that period fondly, but I was also very scared. I mean, Harry was 2, mm-hmm. and I made a promise to myself that I would not let him down, and that I would show up and I would be present, and I would, maybe that thing I was talking about earlier where I always feel like I need to be the best, Mm-hmm. I was like, I'll be the best fucking single dad ever, or something. I don't know, something probably not very healthy.
Yeah.
But I was really scared and uncertain, and I would love to say that I had this transformational moment and rebuilt my life there, but there was several months passed before I figured my stuff out. I mean, I was probably going out too much when I didn't have Harry. I was chasing validation in, let's just say, unhealthy places, right? Being a little bit promiscuous, or just drinking, or bringing women home just to tell the boys a story, sort of stuff. Just not. So I thought I was okay, but I wasn't. And I would encourage a lot of men that we're really good at convincing ourselves we're okay, because it's much easier to do that than it is to say, lads, I'm scared, I'm overwhelmed, I'm insecure, I don't know if I can do this. So there was a few months there where it wasn't I probably wasn't acting in the most healthy way.
And I want to talk about that just a little bit, mate, because I think, because that's happened in my life as well,
Yeah.
right? Where this moment has happened, and it's like, oh, that should be the spark where you pull your socks up,
Right.
and we don't.
No.
Like men and women, everybody.
Yeah.
Like something bad happens, and we go, oh, I'm gonna make this worse.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna make this worse. And then when you get through it, you look back and think, oh, I should have known better.
Right.
And it's like, well, if you did though, like you would have done different. Like that's okay.
Right.
But I think that's a really important part for people to notice that, yeah, this mad thing happened, and that's what I thought would be the moment. Like I fell off the balcony. Like, all right, well, you're probably going to sort that out. No, next month I was out again.
Yeah.
It's like you got to give yourself that grace period. Like when something bad happens, you don't just go, oh, perfect.
Right.
Now I'm going to become this new bloke. There's probably a period where you're like, fuck, I'm still clinging to like, this is what, I know this is working. And that's where that bit comes in.
I know. I think that's it. I think I was still. I know I know I showed up for Harry,
Mm-hmm.
so that was one part that was non-negotiable. But everything outside of that, I think what I recognise now is that I was more interested in people thinking I was okay, and people giving me praise or reward, than I was actually just doing the work and getting really transparent and vulnerable with myself. I wasn't ready to do it, and that's okay. I don't judge anybody. You can come in here 20, 40, 60, and hopefully I can act as a person to help you connect dots. That's kind of a big bulk of what I'm trying to do in here. And I think I wasn't ready to turn inward right away. I was spinning a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Everything I thought I had built was not built on. It was not built on a robust foundation.
Yeah.
And I just had convinced myself that everything was fine in my marriage, and then I had convinced myself that I was fine after that. And it was probably 10 or 11 months until I really had that moment of, okay, sort yourself out. Let's get real. Stop pretending here. So, yeah. That was only. When was that? I think that was only 6 or 7 years ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I said, I'm a therapist in here, but I don't sit here feeling I don't feel like I'm the all-knowing person that's always had it figured out. Which hopefully helps men to connect into that. That's the authentic
People
part.
don't need to sit across a perfect person.
No, absolutely.
And help me. I need someone that's been through the battles and tested themselves. With that in mind, mate, when you did start to go inward, so the next question is, because from then to now is like it's crazy different.
Yeah.
Because then at what point did Fallon show up?
Yeah. Well, I remember having a very distinct moment of clarity as I woke up on Richie's couch one morning, hungover. It was maybe like January 6th or 7th, 2020. And I, over the festive period, I had just been making terrible decisions, or in hindsight, and I woke up and I just was like, man, this is not... I can remember even Rich, he's featuring a lot in this podcast. He's probably another male role model. Yeah.
He'll be on soon.
So I even remember my friend Rich sort of saying, mate, this is a bit much kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And when Rich gives you that talk, you've sort of you've went past the threshold. So I was like, yeah, man, I'm done with this. And my choice wasn't to give up drinking or anything at the time, but I did stop drinking for a while. And actually, a few weeks later, I bought a little house for myself and Harry in Beaverdale, just a little 2-bedroom. But that was really the start of a new chapter.
Yeah.
I was no longer just the divorced, rebound, single dad guy. I was like, okay, now let's do this properly. Let's get a little house. Let's give him a stable, consistent life that he needs. And the other thing, I know the COVID shutdown was a really difficult time for a lot of people. And in a weird way, it was actually another good moment for me during that time where everything shut down. And I'm in the little house on my own. And it's like you're sort of there with your own thoughts a little bit, and you're like, let's go, man. Let's get real. let's break this shit down. Let's figure out what are your maladaptive behaviour patterns. Where are you chasing external validation? Which parts of you are you still, ashamed of that you need to actually...
Were you thinking about it like that at that time, or were you more just like, what am I doing here? How can I...
I was thinking of it more through behaviours. So I was working out more. I was eating better. So it was that more of that behavioural activation stuff, which is really useful, right? But I hadn't connected the dots on the root cause. It was more just, let's address the symptoms here,
right?
Which is still good. But then, as you said, I met Fallon right around that time too. Actually, right exactly at that time, now that I'm thinking about it, is because our first date was at her house because we couldn't go anywhere because everything was shut down. So that was a really important time for me. And as you know, in your work as a life coach and as a health coach, you sometimes need a teammate or a therapist or a coach or somebody, because we have blind spots, don't we?
Yeah.
You can try to be vulnerable and reflective as much as you want, but you're only going to see what you can see, and sometimes you just need that other person. And she was in a similar spot to me, so it's not like she was flawless and perfect and I was like broken and needed her help. We were both in a similar point in our life, and we were evolving together, which was incredible. And she was willing to be honest with me, and me with her, and just having that companionship and desire to build something much more authentic and real than what we had both experienced previously.
Yeah.
And she has a complementary skill set. We're not the same. She's good at things that I'm not good at, and I'm good at things that she's not so good at, and so that's really helpful too, because then together it makes kind of a formidable partnership. So yeah, she came into my life at a really, really important time.
And now you're living in Johnson, obviously. You're the dad, the stepdad with the 4 kids, and you just went on holiday to Florida, lovely. And not that it's a smooth sail from here on out,
no.
But compared to the madness of like Harry 0 to 4,
yeah,
and Harry 5 to 9,
yeah.
If I was to ask you if your life is a book, and Harry 0 to 4, and that's just for the context of the time frame, we're talking about Ross's life, what would that chapter be called and why? And then 5 to 9, what would that chapter of your life be called and why?
Okay. That's a really good question. I would say it's so hard for the 0 to 4 because it feels like 2 distinct parts. So maybe I'd put that chapter in 2 parts, and the first part I would maybe call like The Illusion or something, or like the House of Cards. Maybe that's probably good, because then it's like this feeling, because 0 to 1, we convinced ourselves that everything was fine.
Still pretend.
Yeah, but everything was just built on shaky ground, and as soon as one piece fell, it crumbled like a house of cards. And so so that would be that. And then after that, even though I probably spoke about myself in kind of a negative way once I moved in with Rich and yourself, it was a steadying of the ship.
Yeah.
And so I needed to kind of calm the waters a little bit so that I could then move on and actually rebuild. So I would probably say House of Cards, and then Steady the Ship would be the 2 parts of that 0 to 4. And then after that, that's really when I started to rebuild things in an authentic, real way around a value system that actually made sense to me. And so that would probably be the rebuild or something like that. Yeah, and Fallon and I look back on the last 5-6 years, and we can't even believe what we've done and how much we've changed. And it's amazing what can happen when you have a teammate and a vision and you believe in it together. So yeah, between obviously adding Lachlan to the family, but just even purchasing that house, and we've both had career evolutions and things like that. It's like, wow, man, how did we even pull that off? But it feels good.
With that in mind, mate, for people that are like in the steady in the ship moment.
Mm-hmm.
What were your inputs there? You mentioned them earlier, and you did also mention that the makeup, like if that's makeup, it's not enough.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you still got to wash your face.
Yeah.
Right. For all the guys listen to the man's podcast that use makeup, I should probably use a different analogy there, right? But you still. Yeah, you can definitely go to the gym and eat better, but if you're not, there you go, taking stuff out your backpack, which we spoke about before, then you're still being drugged back. So where would you start if you were to be right back there again?
Yeah, so what I would probably say is I would have, and maybe I'm elevating my own profession here, but why I didn't get a therapist in that time is beyond me, and maybe this is a good moment for me to maybe champion therapy, because I know it's hard for men. There's still that stigma around it. I think the pendulum's swinging a little bit. I know you just started seeing somebody, and I think it's important that we normalize therapy, because it's not. I think for men, it's you go there once you're broken or you're in crisis, and in a lot of ways it maybe feels weak or soft. But I'll tell you what, man, it takes a lot of strength to get real and turn towards yourself a little bit instead of, projecting everything outwards. So if I could go back to that time, I actually, in a weird way, I wouldn't change a whole lot, because I do believe that through the suffering comes the growth or the clarity. And it sounds crazy, because obviously my marriage ended up a total dumpster fire, but in a lot of ways I'm very grateful for it. I needed the reset. I needed something. And so we do have adversity in our lives, and of course there's certain suffering and experiences that I would wish on nobody, but it is also okay to grow through the adversity. You learn so much more about yourself when the shit hits the fan, don't you? So I might not go back and change too much. What I would say is I would have probably gotten a therapist. I would have probably opened up a little bit more to friends, family, and rather than doing my Clydebank toughness thing, I've got it all together, don't worry about me, I'm the best single dad ever. It's like, fucking hell, mate. I don't even know if people around me were buying that, to be honest, in hindsight, but I was sort of fooling myself. So that would be it, though. I'd have got a therapist, I'd have been more open with people that love me, and
you mentioned getting yourself moving a little bit more in the gym and changing your diet a little bit.
And then just, health is wealth, innit? My God, man, if you feel good about yourself and your body feels good and you feel strong, it does give you a certain confidence that you can then carry into the other aspects of your life. So no, that would probably be it. But I try not to judge myself too harshly for that period. I had just come right out of a tough situation, and you do your best with what you have in the moment. And so I don't want to judge myself, but anybody that finds themselves with a change of circumstances or a big life transition, I would say it's really important, open up to somebody. And if you don't have somebody in your life, get a therapist. And if you're not sure what to do, just do something. I say that to men a lot. Because we get stuck, don't we?
Yeah. It's get absolutely paralyzed and frozen, and this is what I know. Right. And I know that it's not working, but it's what I know.
And even if it's a small thing, so I think even if it's like, okay, I'm going to go to the gym 5 times a week, or I'm going to only have a beer on a Saturday, or just do something, because for men, we need agency, right? We're providers, we're protectors. When we're horizonless and we're just stuck, that's where the depression comes, that's where the self-loathing comes. So even if you have one actionable thing, you go to the gym every morning and everything else is still the way it is, well, at least you're taking action. Right. At least you're showing yourself, I can move forward. And then with that little bit of momentum, no matter how small, well, you can then add something else, which obviously I've done the example program with you, which was great, by the way. I wasn't paid to say this.
This podcast doesn't have any money. No sponsors.
But I think that was what I loved about the example program. Outside of, losing weight and feeling good,
Mm-hmm.
I loved how necessary you made it to sort of examine daily processes, daily habits. And again, blind spots. I could have definitely convinced anyone that my habits were great, but when you're sitting face to face with somebody else and you actually have to write down what you're eating or be transparent about your habits or did you go to the gym or not and all that stuff, wow, man, that's a great exercise. And so then you get real with it and you go, okay, well, what can I remove? What can I add? And changing your life is not about these transformational epiphanies, and that's what I think sometimes men get lost on. That it's incremental change, and that's what I loved about the example program. It was sustainable. I think in the health industry there's all these quick fixes, and I get it, people are just making money, right? So they promote things, but that's not what the example program is. The example program is incremental sustainable change. I done it more than a year ago, I think, right?
Yeah.
And like all of those habits, and even if I slip slightly, then I can go back to what I learned in that phase and course correct.
Yeah.
And get right back on the dial in those habits that get me to that optimal version of myself. So I can't even remember where we started there, but
yeah, that was basically it. Like, what would you do to get going? And then we bled into the next question there, because
right.
You did jump in like 2004, 2005. I think it was 2004, or the January 2005. I think we started. No, we done it over Thanksgiving. So it's through a very difficult time to start evaluating your habits.
2025.
Yeah, when everything's going off. And then, how were you feeling then, mate, to get that going? Because again, from the outside, people were probably looking at you then like, oh, Ross he's in decent shape, especially compared to your average guy.
Right.
And what you said there was all great and really important. I think, if I may, from being on this side and helping you with that, the thing that I think made all this stick for you was your clarity on what was really important to you. And I think you made some big decisions off the back of that have like just aligned with exactly like the example of who you want to be.
Yes.
So speak a little bit more to that, if you can, mate, about what made you think, yeah, do you know what, I'm going to jump in here? And then how is your life different now? I know you said about a couple of things there, but expand on that just a little bit.
Yeah. Well, in the same token of getting on a plane and coming to America, I think ever since then I've deliberately sought out experiences that make you feel uncomfortable. And so, yes, I am a therapist. Yes, I want people to feel secure and safe when they're in this space. But I can definitely say that my ripest periods of growth have been through discomfort and adversity, sometimes unplanned. And so, in the absence of unplanned discomfort and adversity, sometimes it's okay to go and seek it out.
Right, which is hopefully what we can do.
Right,
rather than
100%.
Yeah.
And I really strongly believe in that. And so, like you said, I was not. It's the same as going to therapy, right? You don't wait until you're in a mental health crisis to go to therapy.
Yes.
Don't wait until you're 80 pounds overweight to see a health coach, right? And so you're right. I wasn't in a terrible place, but that's often, it's better to start these things off in a more advanced place. But I knew you, so that was the big piece. It's like I know you, I know your personality, and I knew that you would push me. I knew that you would stretch me, and I wanted to feel uncomfortable, right? And so I think I had my values very clear. Being a present, strong father that can show up in the way the moment demands is very important to me. And I also know that if I feel through a health lens that I'm closer to a more optimal version of myself, then it bleeds into everything else. And I'm a better therapist, I'm a better dad, I'm a better husband, I'm become less reactive and more able to respond. I have more patience and I have more confidence, right? I mean, let's be real, like it's nice to be able to look in the mirror and be like, that's fucking decent for 44. And it's also nice to be able to pick your kids up and carry the groceries in at the same time. It's just, we are men at the end of the day. And we do have a primal instinct or a primal circuitry that wants us to be able to provide and protect. And if your body's healthy and strong and you can run and lift heavy things and look half decent while you're doing it, it just bleeds into everything else. So no, I loved it, and it sounds like I'm championing the example program, which I am, because I actually did. I loved it, and if anybody out there is considering it, it's so much more than losing 10 or 15 pounds. It's a lot of the things I'm talking about. It's somebody holding a mirror up and helping you connect dots and getting real with yourself and really examining your daily processes versus what you're kind of fooling yourself. I was eating M&Ms and having a pecan latte or whatever I was getting, which I'm like, wow, that was. But I would never have considered those things hadn't you held the mirror up. So no, I loved it, mate. It was brilliant.
Now your therapy practice is obviously growing from strength to strength, and you are in the process of writing your first book. And I feel like we got a little sneak preview there into like the 3 A's and the triangle.
Sure.
Which I think is easy for people to, well, might not be, but it's something that I can point a finger at, like, okay, that helps me.
Yeah.
What called you to write the book, and what will it all be about, I guess, mate?
No, thanks for asking that. Yeah. The idea of writing a book was born out of, again, seeking discomfort. I mean, I was okay at English at school, but I mean, it's not something that is within my sort of normal skill set or wheelhouse. And so one, I wanted to do something that would stretch me, and it is stretching me, man. Oh, it's harder than it looks. Yeah. I wrote 5 chapters right off the bat and thought, I'm going to write a book in 2 months.
Writing stuff.
and then I massively hit the wall, and I keep going back, and so I've been adjusting those 5 chapters over and over. But so one just to stretch me as a person, do something different that I've not done before, and then ultimately I sit here with men 6 hours a day, 3 in the morning, 3 in the afternoon. So, and what over time I started to notice certain patterns, and I started to notice certain maybe frameworks or ways of working with those men that were actually effective. And I thought, wow, something's actually happening here. It's an amazing feeling when people are actually evolving their lives and enhancing their lives and getting their shit together and coming in and being like, oh man, I feel so much different, and it's like, I'm like, wow, man, well, I've got the best job in the world. And so the book, I don't really have any grand visions for it outside of I want to try to document the work that I'm doing in here in a way that, one, makes sense to me, because I'm trying to actually create order to my own thoughts. Things were happening in here, and I'm like, what is fucking going on? Like, something's happening.
Why is this working?
Right, why is this working? So what I wanted to do was document that in a way that made sense to me, just to make me a better therapist. But then I thought, well, what if this is repeatable? What if I could teach this to somebody else? And as you know, the best way to become excellent at something is to be able to teach it to somebody else. And so I started to try to come up with little frameworks and little tools of the things that I was doing in here that were effective with men specifically. So the book is for men, because men are problem solvers. Men don't open up easily. Definitely move towards solutions rather than feelings. Sometimes, as we were talking about before we hit record, sometimes don't even have language for how they're
Yeah.
feeling. You know, Rich there down the hall, he says, you know, men are angry, horny, or we won the game. That's the 3 primary emotions, you know. And so I started to figure out ways to connect with men that were, you know, in a lot of ways maybe high functioning from the outside looking in, you know, or maybe killing it in their career but miserable at home, or not able to figure out why are my relationships, where's the dysfunction in my relationships, and things like that. And so that's what the book's about. It's going to be called Adaptable, which does kind of fit with the theme of our conversation today. And ultimately, what I'm trying to do is develop a framework that speaks to men, that works for men, that is repeatable. And ultimately, all what it is it's identifying the friction in your life in the here and now, like what's going on now that's sticking points, like where are we getting derailed, mapping that to the adaptation triangle, but mapping that to experiences, what learned to keep you safe, what helped you learn to make and keep friends, what brought you praise, reward. And for a lot of men, that's where they've never thought about that. They just think this is just the way I am.
How I am.
And when men realize, oh, I'm not broken, I just have old circuitry and I can update it, that's an amazing moment. So identifying the friction, mapping to where it came from, and then learning to honor it, showing them this was a good thing. You know, you needed this. This is why you survived. This is why you're here. This is why you have a great career. It's just now you keep pulling out the chainsaw to hang up the picture. And so going through those 3 steps, and then helping them recognize what it feels like in their body when they're about to pull out the chainsaw, when they're about to default to old patterns, and basically creating a pause and choosing the strategy for the moment that actually makes sense rather than the one that they default to anytime they get triggered or activated in some way. And so that's really what it is. And it's not new stuff. Like, it's not like I'm reinventing psychotherapy or something. Honestly, it's begged, borrowed, and stolen from other psychotherapists, other modalities, and all it is that repackaged in a way that I feel works really well for men, in a way that actually creates change, in a sustainable way, not just, you know, opening up the trauma backpack for the sake of it and talking about when we were sad when we were 3 or something, but actually taking the present moment, using that as the trailhead, and then helping them update the iPhone software, basically, but so they can operate off of software that works for the here and now rather than what worked in the past. So that's really, I mean, I guess in a nutshell, that's what I'm trying to do. So it's going to take me a few more months to put it all together, but I don't know what's going to happen with it, but it's been an amazing learning experience for me. It allows me to show up in here and as a sharper therapist. And it seems to be useful for the clients that I'm working with. And so that's really it. I don't have any, if that's all it ever does, then I'll call it a win.
The part you said there about recognizing when you're reaching for the chainsaw, that I speak about in my work. Like, that's the moment where you go left or you go right, and that's all you it's not like the big thing that I need to solve. It's just that point.
It's just that moment.
The path looks completely different after.
Right. It's a great point, mate.
I notice that in myself when I get into an argument in my personal relationship. I can literally feel, you said in your body, and I can literally feel it. And it's like, you should start running now. Physically running away.
Right.
And I'll go on walks and stuff like that. But that's the moment that really resonated with me when you said that. It's like, recognize that. Okay, what's coming up here? I don't need to escape.
What does it feel like in your
honestly,
body?
Mate, it feels like I could win a 10-round boxing match or win a marathon.
Right.
That's how much energy I get in that moment.
Yeah.
And it has to get out of my body.
Right.
And I don't know if that's from being an athlete before, but it wells all the way up. And then when I think about that, that's how my mum would deal with being on the phone trying to get my sister's stuff sorted for school because she's blind or something. And it would build and blow up,
Mm-hmm.
and I can feel that ball.
What happens if you don't if you don't take the walk or notice it?
It explode. Volume gets loud. I shout. There's been times where like I really shout, where you know that you're not. It's not. I'm not in control. Shouting.
Right.
Yeah, I have to take the walk, or I have to step out of that, because I say things that I don't mean. Shout loud. I need to move or bang something. It feels like a tantrum.
Yeah. Well, in some ways it is, because you're defaulting to childlike behaviours that kept you safe. And no, that I appreciate your vulnerability. And so that really is the work right there, that I'm trying to organise in the book. Is so from as you move forward now, as you feel that welling of pressure in your chest, now that can just simply be a cue. That's what I try to teach men.
Yeah.
So you don't, because you feel that cue and you can notice it, and if you can create enough pause, then you have a choice. You can allow that to take over, and you default into, in your situation, shouting, saying things you don't necessarily mean. And because all that's happening is, I'll try not to be too therapeutic here, but you're moving from a parasympathetic state to a sympathetic state. You're literally moving to fight or flight. You're literally moving to survival.
That's exactly what I described, right?
Exactly, right? And so you move. And so what also happens is, if you don't catch that, or you don't start to notice somatically, oh, that thing's happening, or I'm reaching for the chainsaw, then you default into the behaviors that maybe once served you. But the problem when you move into a sympathetic state is your amygdala takes over, right? So you're literally just operating on survival, and your prefrontal cortex basically goes completely offline, and that's the part that does rational thought,
right,
logical thinking. And so your ability to, maybe if you're getting into it with Ro and you don't catch it, you're then interacting with her almost in a childlike way, where you don't have access to rational thought. So you're not,
child.
You're literally in you're the part of your brain's taken over that as a caveman kept you safe from saber-toothed tigers or an invading tribe or a freaking woolly mammoth, right?
That's just trying to sort out who's doing the washing,
and you're trying to figure out who's going to fold the laundry. So it's the wrong tool for the job. And so, but that's amazing, mate. That shows that you have evolved, right? You don't allow that old circuit will always be there, right? It doesn't go away. That part,
that's important to know.
That will always have a propensity to potentially fire and move you towards that. The beautiful thing is, the more times we pause and choose something else, the more we're creating a new pathway, a new way. It's neuroplasticity in action, literally. And so it becomes much easier over time to not default to the fight or flight or the anger or whatever comes up for people.
I always describe that bit as like, we're in a cornfield, and this bit is well trodden down.
Exactly.
It's
a great analogy.
And now I've got to try and keep hammering down this way.
Right, and it's not easy. And I mean, even me as a therapist, I'm still go home, and if I'm elevated enough from the day and the kids are fighting or something, I'll still have a moment where that little Clydebank part of defiant part comes in, and I'll chirp at somebody, or I'll have that. It still happens, it's not like I said, the last thing I want to do is come across like I'm also just a man with old circuitry, doing my best to navigate it. So, but no, I appreciate you bringing that example, and for you it happens to come out as anger. At some point that was a way that you tried to reassert control when you felt out of control or something. But it's important that men understand it's not always anger. It might also be shutdown. It might also be people pleasing. A lot of men find it very hard to bring their feelings to the table, because they've learned that maybe in past experience their feelings are invalid or dismissed, and so it can play out in a lot of ways. Yours happens to be anger. Mine also happens to be anger.
If I'm honest, I think mine's fear masquerading as anger.
And
I think, that's what mine is. It's fear, but I'm going to show it as I'm I'm really angry.
Yes,
That's
exactly.
That, I think, if I'm honest, that's what mine is.
No, that's really important, because anger is a secondary emotion. It's usually a projection of pain or fear, but you use it to protect yourself, right?
Yeah.
And so for a lot of men, once they get comfortable, and sometimes men will come in and say, I have anger issues, and immediately, I wouldn't say this to them, but immediately in my head I'm like, no, you don't. I don't even think that's a thing. You have unaddressed wounds. You have pain. Okay. The anger is protecting you from something. So it's more, the question over time becomes, what's actually going on? But underneath the anger, what you're protecting yourself from, kind of thing. And that's what you're doing too.
I've heard and read a little bit, mate, about, because I'm trying to think of practical things that people can do in that moment, you know. And I've heard things like naming it out loud, like, I'm feeling angry right now. And what does that do? Is there a benefit to that?
Yeah.
Rather than just sitting there being angry and, frothing at the mouth, saying, I'm feeling angry right now. How does that help?
Yeah, well, name it to tame it, right?
Is that what it is? Yeah.
Well, that's a little term that gets thrown around in therapy, but I think what you're doing is you're starting to create order to the feeling, right? And so if you name the feeling, then you can start to take the edge off it, because you're entering into a dialogue. And so what you're doing is you're not allowing the feeling to drive the behavior. If you can say, I am feeling angry, and especially if you have a teammate or a partner or a coach or a therapist or a romantic partner that can validate that, and like, I can really see you're feeling angry, like, what's going on, let's talk about that. All of a sudden now you're addressing the feeling rather than letting the feeling drive. So I think I don't know for sure, that's kind of off the top of my head, but for men, naming the feeling can be tough, especially if you've grown up in an environment where your feelings weren't welcomed or valid, or conditions weren't safe to express. It can be really tough to actually even understand how you're feeling beyond just that you're pissed off. It's really good to be like, but what am I feeling underneath that?
Right.
Do I feel out of control? Do I feel scared? Do I feel less than? A lot of men protect their feelings of not feeling good enough through masquerading as tough or as anger and things like that. So
that's useful. That is useful, and I guess that's where sitting down, if you recognize that you don't know how to name it, that's where, like you said, a therapist is going to come in and just like ask you, okay, why? And then maybe not take your face value answer, because they know a little bit more, like, that's maybe not what it is, mate.
Sure.
What else might there be? And just sort of double check. And that's where sometimes, like, a friend is good, but they might be like, oh yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Whereas you need someone that's got a little bit more strength, experience to come in and say, I do hear you, mate, and that could be the case. Is there something else, like just a program? And maybe even if you are a friend, maybe you can feel comfortable enough to go and say, is that really it?
Yeah.
And sometimes if you've got the right relationship, that will hopefully lead to something a little bit more.
Without a doubt.
The answer, I guess.
Yeah, without a doubt. And we talk a lot about men need to open up more and things like that. It would also be really useful to teach other people how to receive that, how to listen, how to interact, how to listen. We're dreadful at listening. Yeah, we are. And I think what happens a lot is if I come, you're a bad example actually. You're very well versed in how to listen. You're excellent at it. That's why you're a great life coach and podcaster. But what happens a lot is men will often, if I go to a friend and say this is what's going on, they'll often move towards solutions. Oh, why don't you just do this? I'll just do this here. I know this guy will call. There's always a immediate solution, and sometimes you don't need a solution. You just need to be heard. Or the other thing that men do a lot is, it'll be all right, mate. Fuck it, mate. Or
move through it.
Yeah. It's like this sort of like immediate this comfort thing, but it actually is dismissive. It unintentionally, obviously, right? You're trying to comfort, but what you're actually doing is dismissing the feelings. And so both of those, that comfort and that solution-oriented response, can both feel kind of dismissive. And so if the person coming to you feels invalidated or not seen or heard, then you kind of go, I'm not going to do that again.
Yeah, you
know.
that.
And so that idea of validation, you done it so well, even when you were mimicking being a therapist. But whether it's your romantic partner or your friend, there's something so powerful by saying, you know what, I can understand why that would be scary. I can tell you're really scared right now. Let's keep talking about this. Validation is often overlooked as a listening skill, and it's the most important part, because that's the part that makes the other person feel attuned to, like, oh wow, he really gets this. And there's something so powerful about attunement alone. No solutions, no comfort, just I've shared this with you and you now get it, and now we're sort of connected in sharing this feeling, and all of a sudden you don't feel lonely, and all of a sudden the big scary thing feels slightly less big and scary.
Yeah.
So yeah, attunement and validation.
Is that what attunement is? Then that's when someone, like, explain that to me a little bit. Like, I don't think I really know that word.
That's so. For me, attunement is just like you and I are attuned to each other right now, right? We're just there's eye contact. We're sharing an energy. I am trying really hard to understand the questions you're posing to me, and you're trying really hard to understand. But we're just kind of sharing this, and life's so busy, isn't it? There's so many distractions, and so between the distractions of society and the propensity for us to move towards either comfort or solutions, we don't do a whole lot of just, I'm right here with you right now. It's kind of like what I was talking about with my dad. He's very good at attuning to people. When he talks to you,
you
feel
only
like
person that matters
exactly.
In the world. Exactly.
Yeah, and we don't really have that in the world right now, which is why I feel so lucky to have this job.
Yeah.
Because for an hour, I'm gonna sit with whoever's in my office, and nothing else matters outside of what that person's telling me in that moment.
Yeah.
And it's just it's a lost art, I think, and it just makes people feel so seen. And without giving solutions or comfort or even a plan, just being seen, you can walk out of here feeling lighter and like, no, I think I've got this. It makes me actually think of my gran, who's gone now, but me and my cousins, when we were all kids, anytime the shit would hit the fan in our life, we would walk up to my gran's house, and she had that too. She had no idea. I mean, she had no idea even what therapy is or attunement, but she would make a little cup of tea, that's what Scottish grans do, innit? A little plate of biscuits, and then she would just sit down and say, okay, son, tell me what's going on. No judgment, no solutions, no comfort, just tell me. And I just think that's I feel really lucky that I get to do that for a job. But I think we should work really hard to do that for one another. We need that in our lives a little bit. We need to feel connected to other people. What are we doing?
Yeah, and I don't want to put too much pressure on Rich, because he will be on, but when I was going through the toughest things in my life, I was living at Rich's as well, and everyone was telling you, it's going to be all right. And at the time, you're like, what the fuck does all right even look like?
Right.
Like, I don't know. And Rich would, and I always remember this, and I tell people, he was just like, yeah, this is shit, mate.
Yeah.
And I was like, thank you.
Yeah.
And we just laid on the sofa for what felt like 2 weeks.
Right.
And it was like, wow, that's, I don't know where he learned that, but it was just like, yeah, this is shit, mate. And I was like, fuck, thank you.
Right.
Like, listen, I don't have to do anything. Like, I will. But right now it's just kind of shit, and it's okay for it to be shit a little bit.
Yeah. And that's it exactly. I mean, it sounds so simple. Somebody else just reflecting back, yes, this is a shit situation. But you feel seen. You're like, okay.
Yeah.
It is. I'm not going out of my mind, and it's not placating. Everything will be all right. And you're like, how the fuck is it going to be all right?
Yeah. Because you can't see it in
the
moment. You can't. There's a million different endings, and you've probably explored all the shit ones.
Right.
So you feel even worse.
Right.
And it's like, just be here right now and be shit, and eventually it'll pass. Yeah.
No, Rich has got a great ability to call it as he sees it, and he will call it out even if you're not in your best moment, he'll let you know. And I think it's okay to do that. We get fearful of that, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to be a dickhead, but it's okay to say, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I can tell you're struggling right now, mate.
Yeah.
It's powerful.
I asked you early on, who were your role models? And you've got Harry and Lachlan are your like biological kids, and you've got two others, Jonah and what's the other boy's name?
Calvin.
And Calvin,
yeah.
right? No offense, Calvin, you're a legend. As we sort to wrap it up, one, what's allowed you to be so successful at that role, coming in and being the stepdad and the sort of mixed family a little bit, and then what would you hope that they say about you in 10 years' time?
Yeah. When
Wee Lachlan's just about, he's the only one left in the gaff, Harry, Calvin, Jonah, they've all moved on.
Yeah. It's hard to know if you're doing a good job as a dad or not. So even just you saying allowed me to be so successful, there is a little performance circuit in me goes, am I actually doing a good job? And I think, realistically, of course I am, right? But parenting's hard. I think it's important that people just acknowledge it's hard. We have a blended family, age range 3 to 14, so everybody's going through their own little journey. And sometimes Val and I joke that they've got this like secret sort of rota where there'll be all 4 of them can't be okay at the same time. There's always, but they take turns, sort of thing. So parenting's hard, and it'll test you. But I mean, talking about showing up the way the moment demands, right? And I think that's really what I strive to do. I try to not let my own triggers get in the way. I'm not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, just like you with Ro. I'll sometimes chirp at them or sometimes say something that I'm like, oh man. And it's important to acknowledge it's hard, and it's important to acknowledge that perfection in parenting doesn't exist. And what's much more important is being able to model rupture and repair, or harmony, and having a disillusionment and then going back and repairing it, right? And so it's okay for there to be bumps in the roads. It's okay for you to have moments where you're not your best self as a parent, but what is so important is you can never leave them hanging. You've got to go back, hey man, listen mate, I've overreacted there, let's talk about it. And so you're not only modeling vulnerability and emotional expression to them, you're also sending the message, no matter what happens, we're going to be all right here. We're good. And so I think that would be it. To answer your question would be, what I just hope they say, yeah, he showed up, and I hope they say that they felt loved no matter what. And that's really it. And I think we can really get in our heads about parenting, but if your kid feels like you showed up for them and you were present more often than not, and there was no conditions on the love that you gave them, even when they had a total disaster time or they got in trouble at school or whatever they got, and even when you're being firm and holding them accountable, they still know, oh, he loves me no matter what. I think that's it. I think that's the most simple way of framing it.
Then I always finish, mate, with like, what are your little words to live by?
Oh, like
a pivotal saying that's either keeps ringing true in your life, or a saying that you picked up that's like, yeah, you know what, that's true for me.
Yeah.
Or I like that.
There's a book by a guy called Jason Wilson. He's got this thing called Cave of Adelo. He takes young men in there, they do jiu-jitsu, but they learn life skills and all that kind of thing. Cool guy. But the title of his book is Be the Man the Moment Demands. And that just rings through in my head, and probably thematically through this whole podcast, there's been that sort of kind of pulling back to that, and that influences the work I do in this office. But it definitely influences me as a husband and as a father. And so I think I always come back to that. When I feel triggered, when I feel activated, overwhelmed, when I'm defaulting to old external validation parts or toughness parts, or it's like, okay, same with you. Feel it in your chest or whatever it shows up in your body, and it's like, no, what does this moment need of me right now? What kind of dad do they need right now? What kind of husband do they need right now? What does this client need right now? What kind of coach? Like, we're going to go coach the 3-year-olds tonight after work, and it's going to be. They don't need Pep Guardiola, right? Yeah. They need somebody that's enthusiastic and silly and engages them, and so I think that's maybe like a little microcosm of life in general, right? Can you show up in the way that the moment needs, or the person that's relying on you needs? And so that would maybe be the one that I'm operating from right now, is be the man the moment demands. Yeah.
Love it, mate. Well, thank you. Obviously, I really appreciate you taking the time to jump on here. And I think for me, I've obviously grown up into a man with you around here. Like, I came here at 18, and you were Ross Moffat, who went to Grandview and stuff like that. And I've watched you do all these amazing external things, from running the club that I got a job at, and then Iowa Soccer, and then being the Paralympic coach. And I've also seen you go through the toughest parts of your life. Mm-hmm. And I think it's like Alain de Botton's, like, I like the man who's been broken, and these are the best men. And I feel like I've got, if not a front row seat, I've been in the cinema, and I've seen you do that, mate. And I just want to say thank you for allowing me to share in that. And it's not just what you've done externally and the successes that you've created, which inspires me. It's how you have been able to go, yeah, I definitely wasn't at my best there, and then rebuild from that. So that's had a personal effect on me, and I'm so grateful for that. And thank you from me, and I'm sure from all your clients as well, mate. I really appreciate it.
No, and I would echo that, mate. I've seen you go through the tough times in your life too, and I'm really proud of you, man. The stuff that you're doing now, impacting people, and it's an amazing evolution. So I'm glad that I modeled something for you, but I see you're doing the work, right? I tell my clients all the time, we can do whatever great work in here, but you need to go out and apply it. You need to go out and get some reps and do the thing. So no, this has been great, mate. I'm honoured to be on your podcast. I'm really proud of you, man.
Love it, mate. Thank you.
Cheers.
Yes.